Great class.
Thank you, Susan. Welcome, everyone. Good morning. And indeed, as Susan indicated, this is our third and final installment on Eldon Gray's history and evolution of baseball. Eldon received a PhD in ecology and ornithology from Iowa State University. He was a member of the biology faculty at Hope College for a number of years, teaching various courses, including ecology and ornithology. He left the college in 1988 to launch Birders World, a magazine for birdwatchers. Eldon has led birding trips to the Peruvian Amazon and takes Hope students and alumni on safaris to Kenya and Tanzania. His lifelong fascination with the game includes playing college baseball as well as organized town team baseball during and after college. So without further ado, Eldon, we'll turn it over to you.
Good morning, and thanks for being with us this morning. I want to let you know now that my friend Mike Seymour will be helping from time to time as we go through this presentation. And I want you to know that Mike is a recent retiree from Hope College Chemistry Department, and he is very good with computers. And when I mentioned to him that I'd like to do a couple of little vignettes, video vignettes, he very eagerly agreed to help me. So we're going to catch those a little bit later. I want to just make some general comments about some things before we get too far in. Mike, I'm having a problem.
So just, yep, you got it.
Okay. You're looking at a baseball field. You see where they call it a diamond. And I would just like to make a few general comments that will seem very simple, but to give you a feeling for maybe how I think about baseball. So the shortstop, by the way, didn't appear until about 1850. And the reason he came in is because the baseballs were soft and light and the outfielders could not get them into the infield on the fly. So he went out as a relay and he played that position and really ferreting the ball back from the outfield, more so than the fielding ground balls. But subsequently, the position has become defensive, obviously. And I'm showing you here some basic symmetry, and teams will change that for all kinds of reasons, especially who the batters are and what their patterns are. In these days, games are recorded. So much information about pitchers, balls and strikes, base hits, what kind of pitch did he hit and where did he hit it? And you get so much information that you have at a team meeting, you find out that John Smith has been hitting 75% of the balls on the right side of second base. And so you decide that maybe you want to shift the second baseman over a little bit farther to the right. Maybe you bring the shortstop over and play on the second base side of the bag. Third base maybe will be more like halfway between third and second. Similarly, in the outfield, you can make changes if you think it's appropriate. It turns out that back about in the mid 2000s, 2000, let's say 15, we had about a 63% increase in the number of teams that were utilizing this overloaded baseball pattern. And if you would have done this many years ago, especially during dead ball, as soon as you shift people off the left side, they're all going to be punching the ball for a base hit. But today, the hitters that have the shift put on them are so committed to pulling the ball that they're going to swing and pull it to the right side in spite of how many people you put over there. And I should say that this first started in 1948 when the Lou Boudreau, shortstop and captain and manager of the Cleveland Indians, dead pull hitter, the team started to shift on him at that time. If a couple things here about general fielding, it's pretty clear who takes the balls on the infield. First baseman will take the balls that he can get to. If he has to go right, the pitcher will cover first base. In fact, that's one of the rules. If for a pitcher, if the ball goes to my left on the first base side, I cover first base. And so they have to, they practice that a lot. They break and they have to beat the runners over there. They get to the first base line before they hit the bag so they can turn and go parallel when they hit the inside of the bag and prevent themselves from being spiked by a runner or knocked over. The second baseman has that large area to cover, going both to the left and to the right, similar with the short. Now on the third, with third and short, you sometimes get a ground ball that's going sort of between them. There's generally a rule of thumb that the third baseman will cut off anything he can get because he's playing more shallow. And if he can get the ball, he's got a smaller throw and he's got more time to make it. If he can't reach it, the shortstop is moving to his right to backhand it. And if he just keeps going until the third baseman catches it, or if he doesn't, he just continues until he does. And that's one of the hardest throws in baseball when you're deep in the hole from the shortstop position and you have to stop and make the throw, or a number of shortstops spring up into the air, twist their body and throw in that one motion. It's very difficult. Third baseman also is responsible for charging anything slow, and that usually becomes a bare hand pickup. There isn't usually time to use the glove hand and then transfer the ball to throw. In the outfield, your best outfielder is almost always at center field. He's usually the fastest. The stronger arm is usually in right field. He's got the longest throw if he has to go to third base. So a general rule on fly balls is everybody moves to the ball. If the ball is in the left center, for example, both outfielders break for the ball. The center fielder has the right of way. And if he thinks he can get it, well, he has to know he can get it. He calls off the left fielder. If they're both running and he doesn't call it, then the left fielder will continue and try to make the catch. But in most cases, you'll find that the center fielder covers much more ground than either the left and the right. When there are plays where the ball is hit in the outfield and runners on base, they have to be thinking ahead. Take, for example, a runner on first base and the ball's hit to right field and it's pretty deep. The outfielder runs back to get the ball. It could be on the fly. Often it's a line drive, it's the ground ball. And then his play is going to be third base because outfielders are taught to think 2 bases ahead of the runner. You would never throw the ball to second if it's a deep hit ball to right field, and you throw to second, that is, the runner will be very close to that base and would very likely make third base. That's called throwing behind the runner. If the ball is out near the fence and there's going to be a play at home plate, that is really too far, even though my diagram has a short outfield. That's really kind of short. It's too long for the outfielder to throw all the way to home plate. In that case, they use a relay. And the relay on the left side of the infield is a shortstop. He would move into the grass, off the infield spot, out into the grass. The relay comes to him, and then he would throw it home. He would line himself up with the outfielder and with the home plate so that the throw can be on a line, and he would relay it in the same place. Similar on the right side with the second baseman. Now, there are plays where sometimes you don't want the ball to go all the way through on the throw. For example, runner on first base, ball hit to right field. The right fielder goes back to get it, and he's going to throw the third, but it might be that it's too late to get the guy at third. And if you could cut that ball off, you could throw it to second and get that batter trying to stretch into a double. And what happens then is the shortstop would position himself about straight up from where he is right now, up into the grass, and line himself up between the right fielder and third base. If there's going to be a play on third, nobody talks. The third baseman lets it go, doesn't say anything, the ball goes through. If the third baseman thinks that the runner is going to make it, he will holler, cut. And he would usually, in that case, they might have a chance for the runner on second, so he would say, cut to second base, and the shortstop would cut it off and throw it to second with a good chance of doubling that runner, throwing the runner out. In running the bases, it's really important to be aggressive without being dangerous. So if you, as a batter, hit a single, the ball goes into left field, and you're steaming to first base, there's no way he's going to throw you out. You can actually see that as you're running because it's in your field. You would always round that base. You would hit the bag, start towards second, and you would watch the first baseman to see how much room you have, and you would go down as far as you are safely able to get back. The outfielder many times will drop the ball, or the ball make some kind of a bad hop, and he misses it. And if you are partway to second base, you can continue on quite easily. If you're standing on first base, it's too late usually to do something like that. I want to tell you, when I came to Hope in 1962, Jim Boltman was a senior playing shortstop, a tremendous ball player. And every so often, he and I get to watch baseball games. And I have another friend, is also a friend of Jim's, who tries to get to town. So we enjoy watching these games. And of course, you're always criticizing. You're always a critic. And I want to tell you about two plays. With a runner on first, with a runner on second base and one out, a batter hit a low liner to right field. It was shallow. The right fielder comes up to field it, and the runner from second base headed for third and was rounding it. It's very clear to all that that's going to be a play at home plate, and the right fielder is going to have to gun it. Now, the batter, as he gets to first base, he can see that play very easily, and he can walk off the base, and he can slowly walk a little bit towards second, as long as he's got the first baseman in view and he's not going to get caught. The cardinal sin is to get caught. Another cardinal sin is to stand on first base. So you have to be aggressive, but you have to know what you're doing. So what happened in this case, the runner got to first base, stopped, stood on the base, turned, faced home plate. He's going to watch the play at home. The first base coach walked next to him, stood by the base, facing home plate. He's going to watch the play. It turns out that the throw goes in, the runner beats it, scores, and there is our runner standing on first base, not realizing that he just did a bonehead play. As soon as that ball goes home, if there's not a cutoff man, which he has to look for, and there wasn't, he has second base in his pocket. And to stay on first when you have second base available to you is really a very bad play. Same game, runner on second base, one out, batter hits a line drive to left center. The center fielder breaks on the ball. It's not clear whether he can catch it. The runner on second base broke for third. He's going to try and score. Another cardinal rule, you never break on a ball to the outfield if it can be caught. You have to wait and tag up. This guy ran all the way to third. The third base coach did not holler, did not wave him to stop him, but let him go. And when he gets around third base, the center fielder catches the ball and throws to second for an easy pickoff. You really have to be aggressive and hustle all the time. An important part of base running really is sliding. We don't think of it that much, but it's really important. You slide for two reasons. One is to avoid a tag. Another is to stop shortly without running over the base. Now there are a couple of slides. I'm going to show you one. This is one that was used when I was young. This is a hook slide. And this, the runner is hooked the bag, is sliding over home plate. If you're on the bases, you hook the bag with the instep of that leg. This person, there wasn't a play. The catcher does not have the ball, so he wasn't avoiding a tag, but he did the slide anyway. A newer slide, this is not a good example of it. The newer one is called a tuck, professional tuck. And you're running, you can go on your left thigh or you can use the right thigh, but you're really sliding on the thigh of one side and the other leg is up. You want it up off the ground a bit so you don't hook a spike in the bag and damage your ankle. The advantage of this tuck slide is that as soon as you get down on the ground, you can bounce right up. And many times going into second base, for example, you slide in and the ball hits you. The ball hits something, there's an error, the ball flies around. You can get up really, really fast and make it to third base. There is a third slide that is the best for most cases where it's a close play and you're trying to be safe. And that's a head first slide. That slide can be executed as you're running to the base. You watch for the second baseman or the third baseman or whomever, where they're standing, where they're playing. If they're on the left side of the bag, you would slide to the right at arm's length out and touch the bag as you go by. It gives you the best chance of avoiding a tag because you can move your hand. You can't move your feet that easily. Some people don't like the head first slide because they think you can get hurt, but if you need to wear a stiff glove, you can, but it is a very important slide. For those of you who know Jim Boltman, who was a great baseball player, you can ask him if when it was appropriate, if he ever did a head first slide. Now I want to talk a bit about pitching. We're going to look at pitching and hitting today. So I'll just run through some things. This is your most critical position, and I think you all realize that. The pitcher controls the game. It's his job to try to keep the hitters from getting on base. He doesn't have to strike out people. He needs to reduce the effectiveness of hitters. Make them so they're not as quick to get base hits. Here's something about pitches. You want to get the first pitch in for a strike if at all possible. One of the best places to put it is low and outside. That's probably the least favorite swing spot for anybody, both left-handed and right-handed, low outside to them. And they're more apt to take it waiting for a better pitch, and so you might as well get a strike with it. Staying ahead of the hitter is your advantage. 57% of first pitches in the major leagues are strikes. If you get that first pitch as a strike, the chances of a strikeout, 68%. That's across the major leagues. This is a bad one. First pitch of ball, 70% chance for a walk. And this hurts. If the first batter walks, he's at a 38% chance of scoring. So all of this tells you that it's important for pitchers to throw strikes and get ahead. he'll throw fewer pitches in the game as well if he's getting first pitches in as a strike. When the count is 0-2, no balls, 2 strikes, the batting average was 191. Now let me comment. This is where they took a whole season, data for a whole season. It was a few years ago. And everybody who hit an 0-2 count, they determined whether he ultimately got a hit or not. They batted 191 when they got into an 0-2 count. That means that the pitcher is in good control at that point. A pitcher who gets behind 3-1, those hitters will hit on average 324. So you can see base on balls, again, can be devastating to a pitcher. There are 3 components of good pitching. The first is location. I mentioned low outside, high inside. It's really important to be able to locate the ball. It's also helpful if you have movement on the ball. Pitchers who throw pitches that are straight as a string have outfield fences with holes in them because they get clobbered so hard. So having something that will move, all of the breaking stuff moves, whether it's a slider, curveball, changeup can move, and some fastballs. There is I'll wait a second. And then the other thing is to vary speed. Warren Spahn, the old left-hander for the Braves, made the point that the key to hitting is rhythm, and the job of the pitcher is to break that rhythm. And so you want to change speeds. When Ted Williams managed, he just got on his pitchers if they ever threw 2 pitches the same speed, 2 in a row. Very big on that. So you want to do the vary. If you are a fastball pitcher especially, you want to have a changeup. It's really important that you can complement speed with breaking it up. As I said, you want to break the hitter's rhythm, and the fastball pitcher needs to have a changeup that he can command. Variety of pitches. We're going to look at most of them kind of briefly, and a little later we're going to look at some videos of all these pitches so you can see how they work. Probably the most common pitch used is a 4-seam fastball. Susan, do you know if they can see?
Right there is a good spot, Eldon.
Thank you. Here's a baseball, and if I turn it like this, it passes through 4 seams with 1 revolution. 4 seams with 1 revolution. You hold the ball across the seams, the thumb underneath, and this then is a 4-seam fastball. It's thrown overhand, and you snap your wrist down, and it puts backspin on the ball. And the more backspin that you can put on, the better it is. It's everyone's fastest pitch, although many batters believe that the 2-seam fastball is much slower. Technically, it is not really a lot slower, but it's more of a mental thing, I believe. It might be 1 to 3 miles per hour slower. And the high spin rate. If you're, we're going to talk about curveballs in a moment, and the ball that's spinning is going to tend to curve in the direction of the spin. And if you're throwing overhand with backspin, that ball is rotating back such that if it could, it would try and curve up. It's difficult for the fastball to do that because going up, you are going against gravity, and we'll look at that just a little bit later. The cutter or cut fastball is a relatively new pitch. There's records of it back in the 50s, but it became famous recently with Mariano Rivera. And there's an interesting story. He was playing catch with one of his countrymen, just throwing before a ball game. And Mariano was throwing a four-seam fastball. And after a few tosses, his friends said, "What are you doing?" And he said, "Nothing." He said, "You almost hit me." He threw again. And the guy says, "There you go again. Stop that." He said, "I didn't do anything." He threw again. And his friend caught the ball and said, "Go find a catcher to play with. I'm leaving." So he went and got a catcher. And then they got a pitching coach. And he kept throwing. What was happening? He was throwing kind of hard. And just as the ball got close to the guy receiving it, just as the ball got close, it would move to the left. It would not move very much, a few inches, but going to the left. They wanted to know what he was doing different. Why is this ball moving to the left when it never has before? And he finally decided, in thinking about it, that he was putting a little extra pressure on the ball with his middle finger, the middle finger. So then he tried that intentionally, and it accentuated the break on his ball. So what he started to do is take a four-seam fastball, put his fingers a little bit off center, and then when he threw, he put a little pressure on the release, which put a turn on the ball, and it starts to rotate a little bit sideways. And as it got close to the plate, it moved over into the batter. And that pitch is devastating to both left-handers and right-handers, even though its break is the smallest of any of the breaking balls that we encounter. So there is that four-seamer grip released with pressure on the middle finger. And now the two-seam. Looking at the ball again, if we turn the ball so that those horseshoe pads, if we turn it where the laces are close together, those two seams, and you put your fingers on it, that is the grip. That is the grip for the two-seam fastball. If you think about it, when the ball rotates, two seams are going to go across the center. Like so. Now the seams are different with the four seam and the two seam, different in position, and the stitches are important because as air moves over them, you get turbulence and you develop areas of low pressure and high pressure, and that sets the ball, the ball will move from high pressure to low pressure, and it will make different kinds of movements depending on how the seams hit the air and how strong the air is. The two-seamer, just without any change in delivery, will sometimes move by itself because of those seams, more so than the four-seamer. The four-seamer doesn't do much of that. So you get more movement on the two-seamer. And then I mentioned that if you took this two-seam delivery and pronated the wrist, which is to turn your wrist to the outside, which is to put your thumb down, that index finger goes off the ball and will spin it down. So I want to show this pitch again. I'm going to hold it in a typical two-seam grip, And if I throw it overhand, snap my wrist, it's a fastball and it has a lot of backspin. Now there's another pitch that is very similar. It's called the sinker. It was called the screwball in the old days. It was used by Carl Hubble and Christy Mathewson. And what you do with this pitch is just as you are releasing it, you pronate your wrist, which puts a spin on the ball to the left. And that ball is going to spin, and as it gets close to the home plate, it's going to dig to the left, I mean to the right. A right-hander will have that sinker go to his right. It's going to go mostly horizontal, but if there's enough bend, depending on how he releases it, it can go down a bit. Plus, gravity will always help to pull it down. The key is to pronate the wrist. So as you're coming over and you turn your hand as you release it. Some people throw a curveball by doing just the opposite, spinning the wrist to the right side. That's not a very good curveball, but I have seen it. The splitter or split finger fastball is a pitch that I can't throw because my fingers are I can't separate them enough. But you put your fingers on the smooth part of the baseball on either side of those seams. So I don't want to grip the seams. I don't want to hold the ball back. I want it to slip out. I'm going to throw the ball as hard as I can, and the ball is going to pop out, and it's going to go forward with top spin. And you can throw it if you have big fingers. I mean, if you have wide fingers, wide spaces, you can really throw it pretty hard. All right, now I'm going to show you, I think I have a picture of that statement, spreading the index and middle fingers. The fingers are on smooth surface, so they'll slide off. And the ball moves with top spin. And this is Freddie Garcia for the Yankees, and he's holding one. You can see the ball. I've got something in front of mine, but he's holding the cutter. And what he's going to do is sling it forward as hard as he can. It's going to tumble out forward. Now, that is the same rotation on a curveball. We're going to be looking at curveballs in a bit. It mimics it. So what does it look like? It comes in and drops like crazy. The curveball will usually come at more of an angle. It can go 12 to 6, 12 o'clock to 6 o'clock, but it might go 1 to 7 or 2 to 4, 2 to 8. Now, curveball. They're typically 74 to say 85 miles an hour. There are many, many grips on the curveball. I'm going to show you the one that I used. You would like to get the ball to rotate out with the 4 seams like the fastball. Rotate out with those 4 seams like the 4-seam fastball. But you have to let the ball tumble above your fingers and out. You do not snap it down with backspin like a fastball. So if you, I would hold it like this. My index finger is on this seam so I can pull down on it. I'm straddling it. My thumb is behind it. And you get the ball out and you break your wrist down and pull it like this. And the ball is going to flip out to the side and rotates like this. A lot of pitchers want their middle finger on that seam. Some of them even lift their index finger off. They don't use it at all. But the point is, you're pulling down on the baseball. You can roll your thumb up at the same time, and you get that snappy rotation that keeps going. Now you follow through the curveball by pulling back and down. The fastball, you reach out and snap it, and your arm is extended. But to get maximum rotation, you need to spin the ball. And to do that, you kind of pull on it, and it comes back to your left leg. I had a friend in the service with the Boston Red Sox pitcher, and he taught him the curveball, and he said, you're holding it like you can see in my hand, I hope. And then he said, you pull it down just like you're pulling down a shade in the kitchen. Coming around and pulling down, and the pull down hard is what gives you that extra rotation. It has top spin, goes forward, just like the splitter that we looked at a moment ago. You get a higher spin rate with a curveball than you can a fastball. And you want to have the higher, the better. You could go well above 2,000. You could go to 3,000, but in that range. There's an inverse Magnus force. If a ball is spinning, there are forces that cause the ball to move in the direction that it is spinning. If you can see me, if I'm spinning the ball sideways, like I'm throwing sidearm, the ball is spinning like so. It's going to curve in this left direction by this force called Magnus force. It's developed by the spinning baseball. I'll show you that here in a second better. And the amount of break you get on the curveball is inverse to the speed. When people throw a fast curveball as hard as they can, they're not going to get as much movement on the curve. And one reason is that there's not as much time for gravity to work on the ball to keep bringing it down. But it's good to throw slow curves and fast curves. But you remember the inverse relationship. If you're going to have a slow curve, you're not going to be throwing the ball very fast by definition, or it's not a slow curve. Now here's a ball that's spinning on your left. The one on the right is in the wind tunnel. And the ball is spinning following the red line that you see on the screen. It's rolling down, spinning, and the force, the arrow at the bottom going down, that's Magnus force, and it's pushing the ball down. If this ball was not spinning, you wouldn't have the red line there. Air would be hitting the front of the ball, moving over the sides, and the air would separate at equal points near the back of the ball, equal points. But because it's spinning, the separation points change. The top separation point is going to move forward, and the separation point on the bottom is moving back. And so the tail is moving up a little bit. You can see that on the right side in the wind tunnel. The turbulence is moving up from the ball. So in this case, Newtonian physics, Newton would say that for every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction, and there's also the conservation of momentum. So what's going to happen is there'll be a force going back, and that force is going to push the ball and cause it to deflect. It's going to deflect to the left because of the spinning nature of the ball. The separation points of the air vary. We can also look at that with Bernoulli principle. The air is speeding by the bottom. The skin of the baseball is moving back with it. But on top, the baseball is moving to the left while the wind, the air is blowing across it. So it's going to be slower up there. And we find that Bernoulli said that when a liquid flows over a solid, the faster it moves, the less is the pressure against that hard surface. So either way explains the curveball. Now we're going to look at some pitches. We're going to look at curveballs first. This is Clayton Kershaw of the Dodgers.
1-2. His 7th strikeout of the night. Big breaking ball gets Williams. Big break.
Related to the spinal stenosis, that is an ongoing issue for him as Flores strikes out. That's
the window that nasty slider.
I want you to pay attention as this ball moves. It's curving down, and you get the idea that it's curving more at the end. And it really is true, but the curve is the same all the way. If you look at an arc, if you take part of that ball, whether it's near him or near the plate, it's moving. The arc has the same angle. It's just that they accumulate, the downwardness accumulates as you get closer to the plate, and so it'll end up going down. And if you throw the ball, if you aim it a little bit low, it's going to end up in the dirt very easily. We'll look at a few more.
The window that nasty slider comes out of.
And there's the big curveball. Strikeout number 8. Plawecki.
He's one of the best.
The Los Angeles Dodgers are headed to
May I
Chicago.
just speak it out loud to you right now?
I'm sorry?
There's a question in the chat. Do professional pitchers study the physics of throwing a ball?
I would say that only a small number. They rely on their coaches and others who work with them. I do know that a rookie with the Washington Senators, when Ted Williams was managing, Williams always talked to the pitchers about why the curveball breaks and how it breaks. And this guy was trying to hide himself from Williams because Williams always asked him, explain to me how your curveball works. Why does it turn? And Williams is talking about Bernoulli's principle, and the kid doesn't know from nothing. And it was just kind of a funny joke. So there are a few who are very, very smart, really smart, and study these things on their own. For the most part, people teach them. Aaron Sanchez, another good curve.
He does. 3-2.
0-2 on the way. Curveball and a swing and a miss. The 0-2 from Sanchez. Curveball and a swing and a miss to strike him out.
Oh,
He went around. Sanchez with the strike.
He flipped and hit it into the webbing, into the netting. It doesn't strike out a lot.
no, that's okay.
This is Mike. I'm controlling the movement here.
We're talking about some of these. I'm gonna.
That's going to go to the next slide.
Yeah.
You want to go back?
Okay.
They off pitch, swing and a miss. Strike 3.
I'm going to show you how to spin it with one of these.
Got him. And the Royals take game 1. Improved to 2-1. Minnesota drops to 0-4. And talking about drop, how about
That's the short hop. See that catch? It hit the dirt, but he can. It's an easy ball to catch. That's actually a wild pitch. If he doesn't catch it, it's an error on the umpire, on the pitcher, which is kind of sad. I don't know if you saw how he pushed his thumb and snapping it off, pull the fingers, push the thumb. Cool.
how about the way that curveball dropped on? He struck out the first 2. And he strikes out the side. Oh, got him looking. much more than just a third pitch.
Better believe it, that locked up Sano.
With a double in the fourth inning. Got him. And they had him all the way. And the string continues. Herrera.
All right. Just a couple at slow motion, just next sinker. Now, let me just stop here a second. The sinker is a wonderful pitch, and I'll never understand why more pitchers don't use it. I don't think it's any harder on your arm, but it is a wicked pitch. The good thing, or from the pitcher's point of view, is you can throw that as hard as you can, and it can come in almost as like a fastball. That's also true with the slider, by the way. We're going to look at that one also. So what's going to happen here, this is a left-hander, but left or right, he's going to throw it hard, and then for a right-hander, it's going to back into the right-handed batter. It's going to go back in and down, depending on how it's released, to the right-hander. And it would be the opposite for a lefty. Let's watch a little.
Saves converted. Pitch home. Way, but
much there. There.
And the 1-2 is strike three call. Payoff pitch. Strike three call.
Here's some more sinkers. This is the lefty. It's going to tail back to the left.
And Price with a 2-2. And got him. 1-2. Strike three called. Fastball inside corner.
3 called. And here it comes. That's strike 3 called.
Now, you've seen the curveball and how much it breaks. The slider is not intended to break that much, although some of them break more than you'd think they would. Most of them do not. The slider is thrown much faster than the curveball. And when I can't get an empty screen here, that's all right. We'll just watch a few of these. This is Corey Kluber.
Swung out and missed. He strikes.
There.
Swung out and missed.
Little curveball.
Chased one in the dirt and swung out and missed. Kluber got him to expand the strike zone, and Escobar goes down swinging.
Look at that.
Swung out and missed. He struck him out. Swung out and missed.
That went down enough to miss the bat.
Did he go?
Yes,
he did,
he
says the
did.
hope. Swung out and missed. He chased one in the dirt. The payoff. Swung out and missed. And he waves at a ball. The 1-2. Swung out and missed. Corey Kluber.
All right, are you having fun? This is tremendous stuff. Now, it's sometimes harder to see the Sale slider. He's a left-hander, real tall, throws sidearm. And so as the ball comes across, it's going to, at the end, it's going to slide. And it's almost impossible to see it from our angle, but trust me, it's there.
13, there would be a play at second, let alone be out at second.
And there goes. Got him.
And he's throwing it well.
That breaks in for strike three. Smooth.
People
Those
in
are-
the game.
Those are good pitches just for strikes, like a fastball.
No,
But
we're
it
not
does
that good.
slide over.
Yeah.
There you go.
Now we're going to look. We're going to watch Mariano, but I just wanted to pause this and just remind you again why he is so effective. You may, if you follow this at all, you may know that he is known for breaking bats, especially left-handed hitters. Breaks a lot of bats. And it's because of the way he pitches. Remember, this is the smallest amount of movement of all the breaking balls. It's going to be a lot like a weak slider, except he's throwing it very hard. It's going to tail off to the left like a slider, but doesn't have as much movement. What you're looking at here is a bird's eye view. You're up in the air. You're looking straight down. Home plate is on the left, and Mariano is obviously there on the right. And the dotted line is the trajectory of a straight line, and the red line is the trajectory of Mariano's cutter. Now you can see the home plate, the dark blue, that's 17 inches wide, and it shows you the inches, rather feet above it and below it. And if the circle here is telling you, is pointing out where the separation takes place. So up until this point, that ball looks like a straight fastball. It doesn't look like it's going to do anything else. And the delivery is sufficiently like a fastball. The grip and the release are sufficiently like a fastball that the batters are really caught. They don't see this thing coming. They just know he throws it most of the time. So what's going on here now is he's really going to be, his ball is really on its way for an outside strike on the left side of the plate. But when the batter swings, you'll see that the dotted line, the straight line, is right in the sweet spot. Remember when we broke the bats the other day? There's room for a baseball between the sweet spot and the end. And if you hit that spot, you break it. We broke those bats. This dotted line is hitting, what they're saying here is that the batter swung perfectly and hit this ball where they thought it was going on the sweet spot. But near the end of the delivery here of the flight, the ball is moving to the left 4 to 8 inches, and it's coming up and hitting higher on the barrel, and he's going to break that bat. He's very effective. It's hard to see this sometimes because the movement is so slight. A few of them, you can see a little movement at the end. We'll look at some.
The 1-2. He struck him out on the cutter. So Rivera looked sharp to get the one out.
The 1-2 delivery. Strike three called. The Yankees have won it, and they lead in the series 3-1.
And the 1-2. He struck him out swinging. Well, was he late on a fastball up?
Shattered bat, diving stop to Shera. He continues to dazzle with his glove. 1 out.
And Diaz swings and misses. And the 1-2. Strike 3 is called. Fastball on the inside. 3 out, 3 down at the end of 7.5.
No balls, 2 strikes. Hamilton's gone. 1 out.
Criticism of any kind. A 16-pitch, 3 up, 3 down. All-Star game finale for Mariano Rivera.
How many people in any walk of life can you say that about?
2-2. He struck him out swinging. So 2 away.
And 2. There goes Tatis. Strike 3 call. The cutter on the inside that came back to the plate.
Yankees win the pennant.
Now we're going to look at some fastballs. This is John Hicks. He's 22 years old for the Cardinals. He has thrown the ball 105.1 to Ty Chapman, who had the current approved record of 105.1. We'll just watch a couple of these, and then we'll pick up Castillo on the end.
Inside corner, rung him up. 103. Hear a little grunt there from Jordan Hicks and gets the strikeout.
He just does such a good job of making sure he gets it in there against Joey Gallo. I mean, this is right here on the corner. Gallo can't do anything with it.
Did he go? Yes, he did. A strikeout for Hicks. Ends it with back-to-back strikeouts, and the ball game is over.
The 0-2. He got him. 102 miles an hour.
This is Aroldis Chapman. He has that 105.1 record, and he also has a faster ball pending of 106. I want you to watch his body. He's like a corkscrew. He angles his back so much and gets so much body into that throw. A lot of legs and body besides the arm. He uses his body, I think, more than maybe any other pitcher I can think of now. But he throws smoke. Let's watch him.
Straight gas from Chapman, and that's the ball game.
Comes a 1-2. Got him! Chapman picks up the save. The Yankees pick up the win.
Swing and a miss on 100 miles an hour from Diego Castillo.
Seventh pitch of the at-bat. Swing and a miss. Strikeout number 2 for Castillo. 2 away.
This pitch is absolutely filthy. 99 miles an hour.
We're going to watch this pitch again. I told you that you can throw sinkers as hard as you want, and that's a real advantage. Chapman, for example, throws a sinker. Now here's Castillo, 99 miles an hour. Now watch the ball. Just a little bit of spin on that. 99 plus a late break. All right.
2 away.
This pitch is absolutely filthy. 99 miles an hour. Turbo sinker. Might have hit Altuve in the knee if he didn't swing it. That ball moved 2 feet, Joe.
Chapman. This, not this pitch, but the next pitch will be clocked at 106.
Oh, toothpicks for sale.
Well, Correa did not swing and miss, I don't believe, while he was up there at all. That one hit 106. That would be a new record for the hardest pitch ever thrown. He set the mark last year just over 105. That one on the guns at 106. Got him at a mere 102.
Susan?
Yes.
Are we okay? We have some more videos to look at. should we take a couple of minute break? What do people want to do? Or a few minutes? Or keep going? We're going to make it by 11.
Are you saying, I'm sorry, you would like to take a break?
No, I'm fine.
I think
whatever the people want.
Yeah, I think that typically we go right through. So since it's
Nobody's
between an hour
sleeping?
and a half, I would say just continue. I
Okay.
don't see anything in the chat.
It's not going to take us the whole half hour. Then we can talk.
I'm sure people, yeah, will have some questions, so.
All right. Well, I moved some slides, so now I'm not sure. All right. So we're looking at a bat and the ball. The bat can't be more than 2 3/4 inch diameter. The baseball is almost 3 inches. There's some latitude. The baseball has a requirement for circumference. It can be off 1/4 of an inch, and also for weight. So the one on the left, the ball is thrown by the pitcher, and he's hoping to hear a pop when that ball gets around home plate, hitting the catcher's mitt, and the batter who's swinging is waiting for a collision, an explosion, and the livelihood of both hangs in the balance. It's truly a cool thing. I made this to show how difficult it is to hit the ball solidly and what happens if you don't. The experts tell us that they have 1/8 of an inch margin. If you want to hit the ball on the nose, you've got 1/8 of an inch slack. And you've got to have it timed to the millisecond, a range of milliseconds, but not very many. And you can see that if you snip it at the bottom, you're going to get a pop-up, and to get a line drive, a straight line drive, all of you people my age who played, well, I guess there's nobody here that, but for those of you who played some time ago, it was drummed into your head to swing level, have a level swing. And we know now that fastballs come in at about 10 degrees. So if you want to have a line drive shot on the nose, you need just a little bit of an upswing, about 10 degrees. If you want to put it outside the park, you want maybe a 65-degree angle for giving it a long ride. I'm not going to go through all those. You can see what they can be like. Now, this is a little bit hard to read. I'm going to blow it up a little bit, but it's just showing some characteristics of what goes on when the ball is thrown and what the batter has to be doing. I'm going to jump it so we can see it a little better. The author here breaks this down at he's throwing 90 at throwing 90 miles an hour, 400 milliseconds, and sorry, the first 100 seconds is spent looking. When the ball is released, think of me as being a pitcher. You're all looking at me. If I'm going to throw my right-handed blazing fastball, you're not going to see it until I get it up by my head, coming off the shoulder. And the first glance you get, you have to decide what it's going to do. What is it? And you have to lock in first to get your eyes on the ball so that you can see it well. And that takes about 100 milliseconds. And now you got to think about it. You got 75 seconds. You're going to try and make a decision. You want to know something about what this pitch is going to do and where it's going. They give you 75 milliseconds. Then if you look, another 50 is deciding. The batter has to decide whether to swing or not. And then if he does, it takes about 25 seconds to, it says, pick a swing partner. You know, one of the things that helps, a phenomenon that helps baseball players and you and me as we do things with repetition is muscle memory. And you practice things for a very long time. There's that old rule, you know, 10,000 repetitions is the difference between a grandmaster, not checkers, chess, and a very good player. The same is true with piano. Same is true with baseball. So I'm not sure that 10,000 will take anybody and make them a star, but if you have some talent, it's going to go a long way in helping you. The batter then has to decide up here, up in that the little black box. The batter must start his swing at this point. He's that far out. It's going to take him about 150 milliseconds to get the swing. And all of those add up to about 400. And in this case, as far as timing is concerned, he's going to judge. He's going to judge by how fast that pitch is going to come as to when he has to swing. And he's going to judge from that ball leaving my shoulder as to whether it's going to end up low outside or high and tight. And so those are the decisions he makes in such a small amount of time. It's virtually impossible. It isn't, but it's close. There are a couple of ways that the batter tries to determine what this pitch might be. Here is one. The curveball on top, that the red line should be coming down a little bit more as we get closer to the batter. So that shape is not perfect. Ignore that. But here's what's good about this. The fastball, as I mentioned, you snap it down so it's going downhill as it leaves your fingers. But the curveball, if you did that, would end up in the dirt 5-6 feet in front of the batter. So the curveball has to be thrown up. It has to go above horizontal when it leaves your hand. It rolls off your finger going up, and then it starts coming back down. And again, the arc on the ball is the same. If you took every 2 feet going from the pitcher's hand all the way down to the plate, those 2-foot segments would be identical in arc. So that's one way that you can. There's another clue. This is kind of an interesting one. It's kind of hard to see, but there's a 4-seam fastball up on top on the left. Those are electric drills. The balls are drilled. It has a bolt, and so you can spin them fast. The ball on the right up on top, you're looking at the 2-seamer, and there is a red line, the stitches in the lower. It looks like a frown on the lower part of the ball, and then on the upper part, with the hairline, there's a red line going across. And with the 4-seamer on the left, there'll be 4 lines going across. So if you speed those up and give them similar, they get the same number of RPMs. What you see from the 4-seam fastball, if you look at that bottom left, is it has kind of a pinkish cast. This isn't the best color, but it's not very strong. You don't see a strong pattern any place on the ball. It's uniform, kind of pinkish. If you look on the right-hand side, you're going to find 2 vertical lines about 1/4 of the way into the ball, or a little bit less. From the right-hand side, if you come in about an inch, there's a heavy pattern. That's the seam. And the same is true on the left-hand side. So if your eyes are good enough, you can pick up from the rotation, whether it's a 4-seam or a 2-seam. I don't know that all major leaguers can do that, but a lot. Now, I've given you a lot of fast pitches. This is a table I made from that took the team with the 10 fastest starting pitchers, took the 5 best starting pitchers for every team and averaged them. So Tampa Bay's 5 starters averaged 94.9 miles an hour. And of them, Tyler Glasnow hits 96.9. And if you notice from that, they're pretty consistent. 95 to 96.5. And over on the right side, you can see that those guys are all consistent also. Now, I bet you that you haven't heard of many of those guys on the right-hand side, but they obviously are able to really bring the ball. There are so many more in baseball now. I just thought of something. I think I have to hurry up. Given all that speed, we're going to have probably some elbow injuries. And this is a diagram of an elbow showing the ulnar collateral ligament with the arrow pointing to it. That attaches to the ulna. The ulna is the forearm bone. This is your crazy bone back here, the olecranon process. The humerus is up vertical to it, and it holds these together. So when you're throwing really hard, there's a tendency to want to throw the ulna away. It just, the pressure on it, and this connective tissue is to hold it on. And it does a very good job. This is what happens if you tear it. This is a diagrammatic, but it shows that ligament torn, and then they go in, poke some holes, and get some tendons or ligaments from the forearm, from the leg, from below the knee, and you tie it together with laces and anchor it. That's the general procedure. Back when Frank Jobe, who did the original surgery on this with Tommy John, when he was still working in 2014, a third of the major league pitchers had had Tommy John surgery. And their studies now show that youngsters, teenagers throwing, those who throw more curveballs and sliders are going to have more shoulder and elbow pain. And also those that throw many more times, the more the repetition. And so youngsters are encouraged to back off a bit. Now, I think we have to hurry a little bit now. I have an infield here. What I want to do is show you a couple things, and we're going to look at one of the innings of the World Series last summer. But what I want to point out on here is that you're going to see a fly ball, kind of a line drive, hit the center field. It's going to be just right of the center fielder, and he's going to try to catch it on the second bounce. It bounces once and it hits the ground as he's trying to catch it. And I want you to notice that his glove and the ball are at the ground at the same time. What you want to do is run up so you can catch it in your glove close to the ground, or have your glove about 6 inches or so behind it so you can short hop it. And you should not miss that short hop. But if you run up and hit the ball and the glove together, that's a cardinal sin. And he made it. We'll see if we can watch that. He then, the ball never got into his glove. It was on the tip. And as he picked it up to throw it, it spun out of his glove, and he had to go to pick it up. And now he's got to throw home. Now, remember, we've got 2 guys on base, one on first, one on second. And the Dodgers are ahead by 1 run. and we've got Tampa Bay on first and second. So as the outfielder knows he's got to try and cut the runner at the plate if he can, because he's going to score on a single. But for heaven's sake, you can't allow the guy on first to score, because that wins it. The guy on second will tie it. So he drops the ball a little bit, and then he picks it up and he throws to the first baseman, who is standing. He's standing up on the infield grass right here. And the outfielder throws to him, and if he was the cutoff, he would be between the outfielder and the base. So throwing it offline is not a good idea. And I don't think the guy was trying to be the cutoff, because he was pretty much in midfield. And at that distance, I think he should have thrown the ball home, but we'll watch it. So let's move up.
Brett Phillips.
We're gonna watch it all the way through.
Jansen. That is into center field. Here comes Kiermaier. Phillips has tied the game. Arose Arena coming around. Throw home. Now he stumbles, but the ball gets away. Tampa Bay wins it. Brett Phillips, game 4 hero.
Let's restart it. We're going to, I'll tell you what, because of the time, I think what we ought to do is we're going to slow it down when the ball gets
Brett Phillips. Jansen. That is into center field.
Next bones. See that? He doesn't catch it in the glove. You can still see it. That's a snow cone. That's really a bad error. He should not have done that. By being back 6 inches, he could have caught it cleanly. Now he's going to throw a little bit to the right of this first baseman. He's going to have to lean over a little bit.
This has tied the game. Arose Arena coming around.
Okay. Now watch, he's going to throw to the catcher, and we're going to slow it down when we get close to the catcher. Okay, stop. There, you see the ball right in the tip of the glove? Right in the tip of the glove, a little white spot. He doesn't catch it. It's right at the tip. Now, here it's coming off. It's going to come between the umpire's leg. Right there. He never had it, and he spun to do the tag. The runner fell down. The runner on your left, when the first baseman had the ball, that runner was on his hands and knees. They had him out at the plate easily. And the catcher is coming here to make that tag, and he doesn't have the ball. He never had the ball. It bounced off before he spun. Let's do it one more time.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wins it! Brett Phillips, game 4 hero!
The third baseman. One thing I want you to watch is that the catcher did not catch the ball. He was reaching for it. It was a little bit to the right, to his right. And once he thought he caught it, he had to turn 180 degrees to tag the runner. He would have had him.
Brett Phillips. Jansen. That is into center field. Here comes Kiermaier. Phillips has tied the game. Arose Arena coming around. Throw home. Now he stumbles, but the ball gets away. Tampa Bay wins it. Brett Phillips, game 4 hero.
Now, we have one more thing. One of my favorite baseball games turned out to happen in the '88 World Series between the Dodgers and the Oakland Athletics. And I like to watch the rerun, especially near the end of the game. And we're going to watch here. So I'm going to set this up a bit. The Dodgers' Mr. Clutch all year was Kirk Gibson. He is a good hitter, reliable. He had a very bad hamstring injury, and so he couldn't play. And then he injured his knee on the other leg. So he really couldn't play. And when the game started, the teams come out onto the field and they have all the pomp and circumstance about the World Series. It was the first game, but Gibson didn't come out. He stayed in the dugout. As the game progressed, he's listening to it. And as we're getting into the late innings, he's getting antsy, and he's letting the idea of the competition get to him, and he decides that he really would like to have one more bat, and he decided that he could handle it because the noise from the stands would give him the adrenaline that he needed. And so he said to the clubhouse boy in the 8th inning, he says, set up a batting tee in the net, and he put on as much of his uniform that makes him legal, is how he describes it. And he goes in the cage and he starts swinging. Then he says, go get Lasorda. That's Tommy Lasorda, the manager. So the guy goes out to the dugout, to the back door, and he said, Tommy, Gibby wants to see you. He said, I'm busy, I'm running a ball game. He said, Gibby wants to see you. He goes to Lasorda goes to the dugout, and he says to Lasorda, pinch hit Mike Davis for so-and-so, and I will bat for the next guy. And Lasorda couldn't believe it. And so he went back. He said, don't come out into the dugout until I call for you. They didn't want Oakland to see Gibson with a bat, or they wouldn't have walked Mike Davis to pitch to Gibson. So Gibson gets in, and then he has his at bat. It's kind of a long at bat. We're going to watch the whole inning, and I want to tell you one. I'm trying to think of a guy's name. Just a minute. Oh, yeah. One of the coaches, advanced scouts, told Gibson that if Dennis Eckersley, who's going to be doing the relieving, he's going to come in and do the ninth. If Eckersley gets you 3-2, he's going to come with the backdoor slider. Sure as I'm standing here. He said, I've seen him freeze Wade Boggs and George Brett on that pitch. So Gibby does his swing. So let's watch this and see what happens.
And look who's coming up. The demands until he was physically unable to start tonight with two bad legs, the bad left hamstring and the swollen right knee. And with 2 out, you talk about a roll of the dice. This is it. If he hits the ball on the ground, I would imagine he would be running 50% to first base. So the Dodgers trying to catch lightning right now.
was.
He was, complaining about the fact that with the left knee bothering him, he can't push off. Well, now he can't push off and he can't land.
He's going to use all arms. Look at his crowd on its feet. What a tribute.
4-3 A's, 2 out, 9th inning. Not a bad opening act. Mike Davis, by the way, has stolen 7 out of 10. If you're wondering about Lasorda throwing the dice again.
He's staying on an outside corner. He's not going to give him a ball to pull. With Davis, he just missed, but here's 2 quick strikes, both fastballs that kind of tail away the outside part. Hasse is not even flirted with the inside part of that play.
You saw Dave Duncan gesturing. He was gesturing to Carney Lansford at third. 0-2 to Gibson. The infield is back with 2 out and Davis at first. Now Gibson during the year, not necessarily in this spot, but he was a threat to bunt. No way tonight, no wheels.
They're plenty deep in the outfield and a lot of room. They're playing him straight away in center field. Look at it, right down the line. He's a threat now with 2 strikes.
No balls, 2 strikes, 2 out. Little nubber, foul. And it had to be an effort to run that far. Gibson was so banged up, he was not introduced. He did not come out onto the field before the game.
You can really see the limp. He's not driving that ball. It was by him. Let's see, he almost has to talk to his legs and say, hey, let's go, we got to get out of here.
It's one thing to favor one leg, but you can't favor 2.
No way, and that's what he's trying to do. He really is.
0-2 to Gibson. Ball 1. And a throw down to first. Davis just did get back. Good play by Ron Hasse using Gibson as a screen. He took a shot at the runner, and Mike Davis didn't see it for that split second, and that made it close.
A lot of times what you do, you'll give a sign to the first baseman, say, now be there. They call it now be there play. If I get the ball, I'm going to throw it. 14 fastballs in a row. That's all he's been throwing.
There goes Davis, and it's fouled away. So Mike Davis, who had stolen 7 out of 10 and carrying the tying run, was on the move.
They wanted to give Gibson a good shot at it with 2 strikes, but with the 2 strikes, Davis a threat, as we said, because the Blue Pit will score that big run.
Gibson shaking his left leg, making it quiver like a horse trying to get rid of a troublesome fly. 2-2. Mike Scioscia can only sit now and sweat it out. He led off the inning and popped up. Tony La Russa is 1 out away from win number 1.
Here's the big pitch. He's got to make it happen on this one.
2 balls and 2 strikes with 2 out.
Those extra steps that Davis will get if the count goes to 3-2 are very big. So Hasse and Eckersley.
Just want to make a real quick announcement. I mentioned that Gibby was warned if he went 3-2 to look for the backdoor slider. You saw sliders this morning. The backdoor slider is thrown outside, and as it goes past, starts to go past the plate, it slides in to catch it for a strike. So you have to have your bat away in order to hit that ball, and you have to almost, Gibson would have to kind of lean into it.
Want that pitch of decision right here.
There he goes, way outside. He's stolen it.
Hasse started to throw and kind of bumped Gibson, but it was way too late. Davis was way down there, almost as if he could have walked in. Not a bad pitch to handle for Hasse outside. Now watch when he starts to throw. Look at Gibson. And Harvey says, no, he had the base stolen.
So Mike Davis, the tying run, is at second base with 2 out. Now the Dodgers don't need the muscle of Gibson as much as a base hit. And on deck is the leadoff man, Steve Sax. 3-2.
I was right. Yeah, this is where Gibson called timeout and to think about that information the batting coach had given him. So he steps out, thinks about it. Now he's cut.
Sax waiting on deck, but the game right now is at the plate. High fly ball into right field. She is gone. In a year that has been so improbable, the impossible has happened. And now the only question was, could he make it around the base paths unassisted?
I tell you, there are those who say that it's what happens after the base on balls, but it's the base on balls that makes it so bad. A home run would have tied it, but the walk gives him the win. And Eckersley, who doesn't walk that many, really gets burned here. Watch Lasorda. You know, I said it once before, a few days ago, that Kirk Gibson was not the most valuable player, that the most valuable player for the Dodgers was Tinkerbell. But tonight, I think Tinkerbell backed off for Kirk Gibson. And look at Eckersley, shocked to his toe. They are going wild at Dodger Stadium. No one wants to leave.
So as most of you know, we're running a little bit over. Lewis pointed out that we're just in extra innings. And so for you baseball folk, maybe this is okay. So I will allow the class to remain open just to respect your time. Feel free to leave if you need to. I have a prior commitment, but by all means stay if you'd like. And Alden?
Yes.
You can continue then for a few minutes.
How did you like that? did you have any kind of thoughts? Many of you, I'm sure, knew what was going to happen, but
Thank you.
the
That was impressive.
yeah, the pressure buildup is just unbelievable. Gibson and Eckersley have become somewhat friends. They've been on talk shows together. They joke around for a long time. Eckersley couldn't. I mean, he after you saw how he stood on the mound afterwards with that expression on his face. It just hurt, and he was alone. And he talked about that. All your teammates are there, and you've let them down. You come in for a half inning. Come in. They trust you. We're going to give it to you. You're our best. And he let him down. And it really was a matter of two very good athletes, good at what they do, and one of them winning. Eckersley has said he made a mistake. I should have given him a fastball. You remember the first two pitches, fastballs, and Gibson barely got around on them, just barely. And maybe he's right. It also is interesting, a story I told you about the scout who says, as sure as I'm standing here, if it's a full count, you're going to get the 3-2, a backdoor slider. And he did. And he was ready for it. Pretty cool.
You have a couple, you have a question that was from some time ago that I do want to ask, but I also have had a few people just say thank you. And one person, Peter, said, what a great job, Eldon. Thanks for your work and enthusiasm. And I think we can all agree that your passion for the game and your knowledge just shines through as you talk, and your enthusiasm is infectious. But a little way back when, Wes and Joyce asked, does it matter where on the ball it is hit? And that may have already been answered. And Wes or Joyce, if you want to unmute and expound on that question.
I just wondered, there was so much talk about the pitch, how important and what it did, but what about where on the ball, like if it's on the seams or in the wide part of the white or the narrow, if there's any discussion about that?
I have never read a thing about that. I'm going to make a final comment to you, Susan. The balls are wound. They have a cork rubber core, several layers of string, different kinds, very specific, but they're stitched by hand. And so the balls, some balls have a little space between those two pieces of leather. Little space. The ball that's on the screen right now, it's tight. You can't see it. And so some pitchers think they can feel a difference and ask for another ball. But I have never heard anything about a dead spot on the ball. I've not been able to find it, but I saw once a ball hit by Sammy Sosa, and he hit it hard, and the camera caught it as the ball was kind of just a little wrapped around the bat. It was just like an amoeba. I did not think a ball could collapse that much, and I'd give anything to get that darn thing, and I'm still trying. So I don't think that's a problem. But let me make one comment. Someone said about my enthusiasm for baseball. Yeah, I love it. The Natural. Remember The Natural? And I can't think of the guy's name. A lot of people think I look like him. Who's in The Natural? Who's Paul Newman's? Kim, who's Paul Newman's buddy in Butch Cassidy?
Robert Redford.
Robert Redford. Fantastic baseball player in The Natural, right? The Savoy Special. Well, near the end of the movie, he's with Glenn Close, and he says, I don't know if I can do this. He said, God, I love baseball. And I said to my wife, Maxine, he stole my line. Any other comments?
We are going to need to wrap up. So if you do have a comment or a question, make sure you unmute yourself and speak now.
Or email me, graye@hope.edu.
I'm gonna, it's GREIGE@hope.edu.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm putting it into the chat right now for everyone. And if there is nothing else.
Just want to say thank you too. Those videos were just fabulous. Like you were being there. Thank you.
Well, you can thank Mike Seymour.
Oh, well, thank you, Mike Seymour, but thank you for putting it together, Eldon. Great job.
It's a lot of fun.
All I can say is I learned so much about baseball working with Eldon on this, and I'll tell you, his passion runs deep, and just a great job, great time working with him. Appreciate that.
Well, Eldon, I think you hit it out of the park, you and Mike.
I love all these great baseball references.
So maybe we can all just kind of unmute ourselves before we leave and give them a nice round of applause.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you, Eldon. And thank you, everyone. Have a wonderful afternoon. Kim, we appreciate your coordination class. And of course, Mike, we appreciate everything you did as support. So with that, I will close the class. Have a great afternoon and great rest of your week.